happening, everybody? Welcome back to Redemption with Jaden. I hope you guys are all as excited as I am, or potentially even more if that's even possible, but I don't know, for the Redemption 2024 National Tournament going on 1 week from today, when this video is being released, like a week from now when this video is released. We're already going to be almost like eating lunch. We'll probably be done with at least 3 rounds of Type 2 2-player and maybe a draft and 3 rounds of booster. Man, I'm really excited to be there, to play, to hang out with all of you wonderful people. And if you're not going to be there and we don't get to hang out, that's okay. There's still an option for you to kind of vicariously attend Nationals, because I'm also excited to be live streaming once again at Nationals. At least that's the plan, assuming setup, Wi-Fi, everything goes well. There, you can come back here to Redemption with Jaden and check out the live streamed categories that are going to be going on all 3 days at Nationals is the plan. And Rob M Studios is also going to be live streaming at Nationals, and he's actually going to be sort of running the show, helping me out a little bit, because I'm planning to also play all 3 days, and Rob M is going to, I believe, only be playing it one day, and the other days he'll going to be helping to manage things, anything that is needed for running the tournament, but also, of course, managing the live streams is kind of going to be his main responsibility, or one of the things that he's going to be helping out with. So I really appreciate him, and yeah, keep an eye out on both of our channels for Thursday we'll each be streaming one of the 2 categories. Friday we'll both be streaming Type 1. We'll just have the top 2 tables, and then on Saturday we're going to be doing hopefully I'm going to be live streaming teams. I'm trying to see if I can get a setup that will work for that, and a camera that will actually be adequate for picking up 4 playmats instead of just 2. And it will also kind of depend on whether or not the players who are playing teams actually want to sit in that kind of arrangement instead of sitting at like a circular table. So we'll see if that pans out, but otherwise one or both of us will be live streaming sealed deck as well. Maybe we'll do the top 2 tables there as well. I don't know, we'll see, but I'm excited either way to be live streaming. You can look forward to that going on at Nationals, and this whole video is going to be stuff about the National Tournament. We're going to be talking about our sponsors, Your Turn Games, and what they have to offer at the National Tournament. We're going to be talking about something very special happening for the first time at Nationals that I'm pretty excited to announce. I'm not going to spoil it quite yet. And then I'm going to be going over the top 5 decks that have been shared. I was about to say spoiled. They're not new cards or anything. The top 5 decks that have been shared by the community in the sort of recent past, that I think going into Nationals are important to have some idea of, or awareness of their existence. I think they kind of feature some of the top offenses and defenses that are and will be being played at the National Tournament. And it's not always or necessarily like the top 5 best decks that have been shared. So if you've shared a good deck and you feel left out, sorry, this is a little bit of a subjective thing, and I wanted to just kind of cover what decks that I thought were good, but also kind of getting a variety of deck types. The top 2 you'll see are very much similar or very close to the same, but there are some distinct differences that I think are important to point out. So you might be wondering, Jaden, what are these scroll cards doing on your screen? Are they advertising for the Mr. Classic qualifier event that's going on the night before National starts on Wednesday night there? Well, I'm glad you brought that up, but no, I will say a little bit about that. These are for something that is happening on Wednesday night, but we'll get to that. That's a different thing. Wednesday at a game store that is not too far away from the church. I think it's about 30 minutes is what I heard. I don't remember the name of the game store, but the Mr. Classic qualifier event is going to be happening, and as of I believe yesterday, Mark had said that there are only 8 players that are signed up for that so far. So if you are looking to play with some classic cards, if you're into that, or if you just want to use your rotation deck, you can do that too. It is the classic format, so the entire card pool of every card ever printed is legal for play, except for cards that are banned. So no Lost Souls, no Samuel, the Lost Souls, Lost Soul, the original one from not the Roots one is legal. You can use that, but yeah, no banned 2-liner, 3-liner. We'll stick with those names. No Samuel, Morna Weep, that kind of stuff. But you can use anything else. You could just use your straightforward rotation legal type 1 deck that you're planning to use for Friday. Kind of treat it as like a little tune-up where you're just guaranteed to get in some games that are going to be fairly competitive to maybe gauge a little bit of how your deck will perform on Friday. Of course, it's going to be a little bit of a different card pool, a little bit of different competition, a few cards that you might not recognize or have to play against on Friday, like Falling Away is going to be one of them. But it is an event that will definitely get some reps in with your deck, and so if you are looking to test things out, even if you're not necessarily planning to win, or you're not interested in Mr. Classic as much, like playing with scroll cards and that kind of stuff, that's okay. You can still play. You can still win the awesome prizes that Mark and Jay have put together for this qualifier event. And Rob M, I believe, is there's a rumor at least that he's planning to live stream this event if he can get there, if he can get set up, and also if the game store will be okay with that. Hopefully they'll be cool with a little extra advertising or whatever. But of course, we want to adhere to any and all policies that they have. They're very graciously allowing us to host this event at their venue, since we're not going to be using the church on Wednesday night for that kind of stuff. So that is what we have going on Wednesday night first. And I think before I get into what's happening later on Wednesday night, I do want to talk about Your Turn games, because they're an important part of this channel, and they also have some announcements that are going to be relevant to nationals. So if you are looking to pick up any singles, you can still do that. You are too late to get the discount on singles that ended a few days ago, but you can still pick up some singles to round out your decks for nationals if there's anything that you need. And you can get free shipping on those if you are going to nationals, because Andy with Your Turn Games will also be there representing. I'm not sure if Kelsey will be there. I guess I could have asked Andy to see if I could advertise it that way, but at least Andy will be there, and he will have plenty of supplies and everything that you might need for playing your deck, building your deck, whatever. And that I'm just going to do kind of a little rundown of the things that he's going to have available at nationals, because there are some special offerings and cool stuff that he's going to have. So of course he's planning to bring pretty much all of his rotation singles. There might be some extras and stuff that he's not bringing with, but pretty much anything that's played or that you might need in rotation is going to be there. So if you do want to play in the Mr. Classic qualifier event and you don't have classic cards, you probably want to order those ahead of time, or see what Andy has in stock, or you want to try to trade or talk to other people about getting those, trading, whatever, figure that out. But the rotation singles he's planning to have there at the tournament. He's also going to have starter decks, sleeves, deck boxes, dice, booster packs. So if you need a little pack fix during the national tournament, maybe for every game you win, or maybe for every game you lose, you'll go buy a pack and get some consolation out of that. But also, if you're playing booster or sealed, you don't have extra sleeves that you want to bring, or you forgot to bring, you can head over to where Andy's set up in Your Turn Games. Usually in like the hangout area, he's got a table or booth kind of a thing where he has all of his supplies set up, and you can check in with him and get some good deals on some nice sleeves and or other supplies that you might need for playing. Maybe you're trying out Type 2 for the first time and you're like, wait, what? I need dice? Yeah, there are some reasons to have dice. So that is something that you can check out with Andy. Also, at his table or booth or whatever you want to call it, Andy is going to have a few things on sale that he's brought with, including display boxes. So just boxes of rotation sets. I'm assuming, perhaps not all of them. I don't know if he still has Early Church and Persecuted Church in stock. I don't think so, because Rob isn't selling those anymore. But anyways, from the more recent sets, he's going to have some display boxes there available on sale. So if you're looking to pick up any of those, you can. That's a great opportunity to do it. He's also going to have playmats and T-shirts available. So if you don't have a playmat, or if you maybe forgot to bring your playmat, you didn't want to pack it in your bag, whatever, you can buy one from Andy. You probably will want to pack it in your bag on the way home, though. So, I know that playmats are the thing that I most often forget to bring to tournaments, even though I have like 20 of them back there. And so if you do forget, you can head over to the Your Turn Games table and pick one up from Andy. I'm sure he's going to have one that you don't have because he's got a good variety. I don't want to guarantee that for sure because I know his playmats are popular and a lot of you have them, but just saying that will probably be the case. And then he'll also have T-shirts. I know I'll be wearing my Your Turn Games T-shirt one, maybe 2, or even all 3 days. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I just won't bring any shirts, and then maybe I'll just wear my Your Turn Games T-shirt there, and then I'll just buy one for every day of the tournament, and then that way I can save on packing on the way there. I don't know. We'll see. If you want to do that as well, you can do that, and he's going to have the T-shirts on sale, so hopefully he'll have enough to support all of us, all wearing Your Turn Games T-shirts every single day of nationals. We'll see. I don't know. I can't guarantee that, but it will be for a good price. And then also a new thing that Andy is, or that Your Turn Games, I guess, is offering at the national tournament, and I believe also just kind of this is a debut for something that he will continue to offer, at least at in-person events. I don't know if he's going to set it up for online use for the online store here, but he's going to have scratch and dent singles available at nationals. So maybe you've got some singles that you're looking for, but you're not quite as concerned with their condition. As long as they're tournament legal in a sleeve, then you don't really care what they look like, and you'd rather just save a little bit of money. Then you can see what he has in stock for scratch and dent singles, which these might be cards that have some scratching, maybe some chips around the edges, some red discoloration along the border. Like if your cards have been stuck together too long, sometimes that'll happen around the border. So if the card is anything less than redemption mint, Andy is going to have those available to kind of a proportional discount. So I think that will all be somewhat based on just kind of his interpretation of the card condition, but Andy's a pretty reasonable guy. He's going to give you a good price on anything that has a reasonable defect, I guess, that he's going to be offering. So he's got for sure lots of commons. He said he's going to have some rares, even some hard to find ones that fall into this scratch and dent category, and also some promos. They're all going to have great special prices because they're scratch and dent, so you can save a lot by doing that if you're not quite as concerned with what your cards look like, or the resale value, all that kind of stuff. But of course he's going to have the good stuff available there too if you want that, but just wanted to highlight that the new element that Andy's going to have available. So all of that said, we can go ahead and move on to the special announcement, the first time ever happening that has to do with the scroll cards that I had on the on my Lackey screen there initially. Drumroll please. The first ever Redemption Nationals Fantasy Draft is going to be happening this year at the Redemption National Tournament. This is something that is kind of it's going to be brought to you, I guess, by Redemption with Jaden, but it's going to be sourced idea-wise and everything from our friends over at the Threshing Floor podcast. Maybe you guessed that already based on a couple of the characters that we saw at the beginning there. But this is something that was John Hendricks's idea. I mean, I think also there were some other actors going on in here that helped with kind of refining the idea and how it was actually going to be laid out. But there are a few people in our Redemption community, and maybe more than a few, that are into fantasy sports, including fantasy football. That's kind of the only one that I'm really familiar with, and I'm I haven't played it before, done it before, but I've been adjacent to it before, so I know at least a little bit about it, and was one of the ones kind of trying to help make this something solid, something that we could do for this national tournament, and we'll maybe see how it goes, maybe adapt it for next year, or however we want it to look. But there have been some ideas thrown around. But for this year, we have it's similar to a fantasy football draft, except it is going to be with redemption players, so fantasy redemption, I guess, at the national tournament, where there are going to be 4 players drafting, 4 drafters that will be drafting in 6 rounds. So that means that each of the 4 drafters are going to end up with a team of 6 redemption players, and then basically whoever's team as a whole does the best over the course of the weekend at the national tournament will win. They get all the glory. So it's not like a round 1, or like a week 1 through whatever, week 17, 16 thing, like with football, where you're just playing against one other person, but it's just going to be, one for the entire weekend. All of your points are added up from each of your players and their performance in each category that they play in, and then those will all be added up to rank you among the 4 drafters and the 4 teams that are being created. So the draft is going to be a 6-round snake format, which means that whoever has the first pick is also going to have their next pick won't be until the 8th pick. So first pick, second pick, third pick, fourth pick, fifth pick will be the same player who got the 4th, and then it will go back and forth for 6 rounds, so on and so forth. Probably didn't have to explain that too much, but just for any inquiring minds. And this draft will be live streamed on the Wednesday night after the Mr. Classic qualifier event. At some point, just kind of whenever that's done, wrapped up, get back to where I'm staying, where I will also be live streaming this. So it'll be on the channel here. You can keep an eye out for the live stream information. I'll try to have that set up far enough in advance that you can see that available on there, put it on your schedule, whatever. If you're going to be at nationals and you're going to be there on Wednesday night, then you can have this on while you're fine tuning your deck, or you're just getting ready, hanging out, playing fun games with people, or wherever you're staying. You can tune in. Since we don't have venue, or since the church is not an overnight venue and we won't be hanging out there Wednesday night, then people might be a little bit more spread out. I think this will be a good way to kind of get the community together, get everyone kind of able to hang out in the same chat room or whatever, live on Wednesday night. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So the 4 drafters may have something to do with the 4 cards that you saw on there, and I'm not going to spoil that quite yet, who all is in there, but you might already be able to figure it out if you're a detective sleuth type. But let's go over kind of how the scoring information is going to work, and also how any trades will be happening, because John wanted to do trading. I'm not a big fantasy guy, so I'm not really sure if trading is really necessary for the excitement and whatever, whatever. John wanted to do it, so we're going to do it, and I think it'll be fun. It'll be cool. See if it actually, some trading is going on. With 6-player teams, maybe some trades will happen. Anyways, the scoring information, the way that the score is going to work is based on the players' game scores in each of the categories that they play. So if I play Type 2 and I go, I win 4 out of 6 games or something like that, and I win, I'm not, for the sake of this example, I'm going to assume no timeouts, which can be a little surprising. But if, I have 4 full wins, 2 full losses, that's going to give me 12 points, because in Redemption, if you have a full win, that's going to be 3 game score points for a full win. So then, with timeout win, you get 2, timeout loss, you get 1, tie, you get 1.5. Anyway, that's, if you weren't aware, that's how it works in Redemption. So for every game that you win, you're going to get a certain amount of points. if you win more games throughout the weekend, you're going to score more points for your team. And this is also going to reward players who do well in categories where there are just more rounds to be played, which means there are more people playing in that category. So in Type 2, we usually do like 6 rounds, maybe only 5. I don't know. We'll see how many players we end up with. But winning every game in Type 2 will get you 18 points in Type 1. If you win every game, that probably means you won all 7 maybe rounds of Swiss, 6, I don't know, depending on how many people we have. But then also we're doing Top Cut, so if you win all 3 rounds there, then that's a possibility of like 9 or 10 games that you're winning, which means you can get up to 30 points. So that's going to be weighted a lot more because in theory it's a little bit harder to win Type 1 than in Type 2. That can be argued by some people. We'll see how it works out this year, and see if everyone's happy about the way that maybe we can adjust it. But anyways, the highest team total is going to win. So even if someone on your team does really well in Type 2 on Thursday, but they go like 500 in Type 1, then you're still going to get some good points for them, and then also someone else might score more points for your team in Type 1, whatever. So highest combined total of the 6 players on your team is going to determine the drafter winner of the draft. So trades, how that's going to work. Trades can be done after the draft, and the deadline for trades is going to be 9 p.m. on August 1st, which is the Thursday of Nationals. So that's going to be after the first day of events. So after Type 2 and Booster Draft have already been played, you might be thinking like, oh, I really got this player for Booster Draft and they really didn't do super well. I don't know how well they're going to do in Type 1 and in whatever they're playing on Saturdays. So maybe I'll try to trade with someone else that I think is going to do a little bit better. I guess that's kind of the strategy, if I assume correctly, if I'm understanding correctly. And the trades have to be done in a 1-to-1 ratio, so you can't trade like, oh, I'll give you these 3 players for this one heavy hitter that I think is going to do really well in teams or whatever. So that's how it's just going to be a 1-to-1. That every team is going to have 6 players even by the end of it. So that's just to add a little bit more excitement. We'll probably announce any trades in some format on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Be like, okay, here's where the teams are standing. So then to kind of give the drafters a little bit of insight, of course, each of them can do their own homework as well, but we've got a list compiled here by Mr. Hendricks of players. It looks like it's an order of highest skill players to... Oh, no. Okay, never mind. It's in alphabetical order by last name, but this happens to put me at the top. No, so alphabetical order here. And this is just, this isn't a comprehensive list, but it's just a lot of players that have done well throughout the tournament season and that might do well at Nationals. And we haven't, these aren't necessarily all players that will be at Nationals. So if you are or are not planning to be at Nationals and you see your name on this list, for however readable that is for you guys, then you can let either myself or John Hendricks know, like, I'll be there, I won't be there, and you can, have me on there or not for Nationals, or for the draft, I should say. There are going to be 24 players that in total that will be drafted. This list has more than that, and I can say with confidence that more than that are pre-registered, so that's exciting. That's kind of why we decided to end up doing 6 rounds. I feel like those, some pretty good sized teams, get some people involved that you don't necessarily expect to place in the top 3, but they're still going to win some games, score some points for your team. So that's pretty exciting in my opinion. Getting more people involved and all that. Also, this will probably be updated. Just like Rob recently just posted that everything's up to date, and this is not completely thorough, or it's not all covered. I don't know. I guess I just noticed that I have a few. I've got at least one local and 2 districts in Type 1. Don't want to, that I've one, they're not included on the list here. So it's not completely vetted, but we'll double check everything before the draft, and that doesn't really matter for you guys anyway. But you can, kind of know what the drafters are going to be looking at, performance throughout the year, and kind of just how they expect people to do at the national tournament on a, non local playgroup kind of basis. Like, once they're up there with all the rest of the big dogs, how are they going to do? So I think this is going to be very exciting, and we have the special privilege on the channel here of not only hosting, but also getting to pick the draft order for everybody. So I'm going to swap back over to our 4 guys here. Our 4 drafters are going to be Mr. John Hendricks and Mr. Egger the Wise, or Jake Antonetz, as you may have already guessed, based on this being a Threshing Floor podcast production, or invention, I should say. So these 2 are going to be 2 of our drafters. And then we also have Mr. Tyler Stevens. So Stephen is a little bit of a stretch, but there weren't any Tylers in the Bible, from what I remember. Which yeah. So Tyler Stevens is going to be one of our drafters, as well as, in addition to Chris Fashman. He's going to be our other drafter, and of course, all 4 of these guys are planning to play in at least one category at nationals, to my knowledge. But Chris and Tyler are both, I believe, only planning to play in one category each. Jake and John, they could certainly draft themselves if they want to, if they feel confident, or maybe someone else will snatch them, ahead of time, and then they'll have to think like, okay, do I want to do well in this category, or do I want to, throw so that I can be more likely to win the draft? I don't know. We'll see. Seems unlikely, but in order to pick the draft order, we're going to be doing it as any perfectly random, the method would do, and do it with the Lackey Shuffler. That didn't really make sense, but I'm using the Lackey Shuffler because, it's a very thorough way of randomizing things. As we all know, there's no chance of this being rigged or anything. So I shuffled the deck. You can see in the log I shuffled. And our number 1 pick for the first ever Redemption Nationals Fantasy Draft is going to go to Mr. Chris Fashman. Look at that. All right, so Chris is going to get the number 1 pick, then also the number 8 pick. That's going to be the next one that he gets. And then right off the top for our number 2 pick, that is going to go to Egger the Wise, Mr. Jake Antonetz. And our number 3 going to be Tyler Stevens. And number 4, Mr. John Hendricks. So this is our draft order: Chris, Jake, Tyler, John. And then it will be John, Tyler, Jake, Chris, going in reverse order. That's the snake, all that. So this is going to be interesting, though. I like that it ended up being, it split up Jake and John. So now I think the way that the rest of us can kind of participate in this is throughout the weekend we can be like, oh, I like this person's team. I want to like join them or support them. I think their team is going to do well, and you can hop on with whoever's team you want to support or you think will win. But I think there should also be kind of a side pool, or there's no actual betting going on, but just you can pick, do you want to be on team Threshing Floor, or do you want to be on team Elder Card Creator? Because like Tyler and Chris, they're the dynamic duo for card creation at this point. Of course the rest of the elders are all still involved with the art and everything, but these are the kind of the 2 main guys designing. They were the masterminds behind Israel's Deliverance, and are working on other sets, as we know. So are you going to take team Elder or team Threshing Floor? That'll be that'll be another opportunity for competition, which that's why we're going to nationals, right? Friendly competition, fellowship. It's all part of the package. So I'm really excited for this. I think this will be fun for at least for the drafters, and I think for everybody who gets to be involved. Maybe you get picked for somebody's team. If not, you can still hop in and be like, okay, I want this person's team to win. Of course, if you get drafted, you probably want that person's team to win, but if not, you can still turn on them and be like, I think I'm going to do well, but I don't know about the rest of this team. So I think there will be a lot of fun involved with this. So again, Wednesday night, we're going to be live streaming the draft here on Redemption with Jaden. That information will be, posted in Discord and all that, made available for all y'all. Okay, so now to the, I guess the meat of this video, or kind of, what the main feature or idea of the video is going to be. We are going to be looking at 5 of the top decks. I won't just necessarily say top 5, but 5 of the top decks from recent from the Redemption community as of recently, I guess. So I am going to start with the number 5, which I don't know if is the most competitive version of the deck, or I don't want to say it's necessarily the best honeypot deck out there, but this is Alex Oliar's honeypot deck that he shared on the Zerubbabel's Temple Discord in the honeypot channel on July 8th. So if you want to see kind of where this deck came from or want to look it up later, you can go and check it out there if you're on the Zerubbabel's Temple Discord. But if you're not, you can reach out to Jay or to myself, or and you can get the link to be invited on that, or just ask on the regular Redemption Discord. But I wanted to highlight this deck because I think that honeypot is a deck that has I guess just to kind of give you a quick refresher if you're not aware, honeypot kind of based around getting Holy of Holies and Pot of Mana both active and both protected through Glory of the Lord and the Tabernacle. You can make them cannot be negated with the Leaser, and they're just two very kind of oppressive or restrictive artifacts that, if you do get it set up to where they are both active and protected and cannot be negated, then your opponent is going to have a pretty difficult time getting through, especially if they're on one of the meta, like Disciples builds, something like that. If you can get that established on turn 1, which is kind of the goal here, then you'll probably be in good shape. And this was the deck that kind of took the community by storm, so to speak, at the Thomas J. Chambers Memorial Tournament last year, when Jay Chambers and John Early both ran versions of this deck and both did very well. Jay ended up winning using a similar version of this deck that had a gray defense that it played a little bit better, I guess, with Holy of Holies and with Pot of Mana. But I think this version of the deck also does, or looks solid, and it's kind of just the most recent version that somebody has shared on the Discord. I don't know if Jay's got a secret honeypot list that he's been cooking up or working on for nationals, or how anybody else has, or like their lists are coming along, but this one was shared. I don't believe Alex is planning to be at nationals, but I think that lists like this could show up, and they're just something to be aware of. So a lot of the goal, like I was saying, is to kind of establish these two kind of lock cards early on. That'll be done through Temple Dedication, through Delivered, through Crowd's Choice, Glory of the Lord, and then it'll just take advantage of the value from cards like Moses and David, who can set up their own battle winners, who both work very well through both Holy of Holies and Pot of Mana. Mordecai and Asaph are also in Alex's version here. Previous versions, like from Jay, we've seen cards like the Chosen Warriors. We've seen Jeremiah, Hopebringer, as just cards that work well under these conditions, and the goal is to just kind of break parity that way, where you and your opponent are both under these two over the world abilities, kind of like they're overarching they apply to everyone. What am I trying to say? Like symmetrical, and then this will kind of, the deck is designed to break the parity on that. Means that it'll give you the advantage because you're better built for it. So this is a slightly different version though, because it's a kind of Crimson good stuff defense almost. Like there's Nebuchadnezzar, mounted forces, so a little bit of Babylonian stuff, a little bit of thief stuff with the Highwayman, getting both value in drawing, but also setting up Colosseum or Sheol is an option. And then there's the Condemned Thief as another thief option who cannot be prevented, so he works well in blocking with Holy of Holies and Pot of Mana. And then also some animals. He's got the Serpent, he's got the Great Fish, and some other stuff in reserve that I'll show at some point here as well. But yeah, so the defense is just trying to kind of get incremental value, but it blocks fairly well through Holy of Holies and Pot of Mana. Great Fish is good with Pot of Mana, but not as much with Holy of Holies since it will be negated, but it can be grabbed by Moses. So there's just a few like interesting card choices that I probably would not have made if I were building a similar deck, but Alex has recently got back into the game, done some playing and refining of different deck lists throughout the Lackey Grand Prix and that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to highlight this deck as something that's a very similar to what you might be seeing at Nationals. So that is the main deck, and let's just go take a quick peek at the reserve here. He's got the Moths in reserve. I guess this didn't sort very well. Lots of good enhancements in here that he can pull out with stuff like David's Harp, and just have plenty of ammunition for the battles, because that's pretty much how the game is going to be won, I guess, through those battles that are a little bit more fair, but kind of made less fair because this deck is just better built for it than most other decks. Another thing to note, I guess, is the use of Colosseum. It's pretty solid in a deck like this, where he's not really running any cannot be negated enhancements. So it stops stuff like Authority of Christ and the Ascension that people are playing and can be pulled out with the Highwayman, which is nice. And then there's also a bit of a Soulhide theme kind of hiding among the deck here, where he's got both Sheol, so with search abilities you can underdeck Lost Souls, and then Tabra, so if opponent plays a dominant you can shuffle Lost Souls. And then he's got Shut Door in here to try to hide when opponent is playing dominance, and Wanderer can also help with that. You exchange for someone else's, and then you underdeck the Lost Soul you exchanged for, so it just you're not going to redraw that Lost Soul. So yeah, a little bit of a Soulhide sub theme, which is not really something you typically see with Crimson, but I think it's something that's worth being aware of. I guess that Soulhide is still kind of a thing that's lurking out there. So anyways, in the number 4 slot, I have this deck from Jay Chambers, which is the deck, an Angel Thieves deck, which he used to get 3rd place in Lackey Grand Prix number 16. So if you want to check out this deck, you can find it on Land of Redemption in the articles. This is the LGP 16 Top 4 Decks article that was posted on July 20th. And so I wanted to highlight just a different style of deck or offense, I guess, like probably one of the only, or it's, I guess, the only other like somewhat Old Testament offense that I think you'll see a lot, or not necessarily a lot at the top tables, but you'll see at least around the top tables at Nationals, which is this, I guess, primarily New Testament angel offense, but there's a few Old Testament guys splashed in there with Michael, Captain, and Daniel. So this is what I think kind of the Daniel deck has transitioned to, instead of being a straight Daniel deck where you've got Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in there, and then Servants by the River, maybe Foretelling Angel. I think that this is kind of just what it is morphed into. It's just mono angels deck with Daniel in there is kind of a splash support, just because Michael, Chief Prince, is still very strong. And so by getting the little extra draw power from cards like Legion of Angels and Magnifying Multitude, and a little extra, and I guess Angel Chariots, a little extra searching and everything that is afforded by the New Testament stuff, then that's just what seems to be a little bit stronger, and so I think that this style of deck will be seen there at Nationals. And here you also have a little bit more of a traditional Thieves defense, although um, Jay definitely spices things up a little bit with this, with his excuse me, with his evil enhancement lineup. I think we kind of talked about this on the podcast a little bit, or maybe it was on, I don't know, it was something I saw recently or heard recently. But like he was, playing unclean until evening, and then lots of CBP stuff, and then even this, CBN ambush here, which I think is maybe a little bit underrated. It's a card that I haven't used as much in my Thieves decks, just because I like to play Coliseum and the Cross. But ambush is just very strong, and then of course he's playing Peter's Curse, and the kind of evil dominant lineup. Was this? This was a deck that I talked about with John Hendricks for something. I remember us going through this dominant lineup and kind of talking about it. Was that on the podcast? I don't know. I thought we did a different deck there, but maybe that was for a similar. Yeah, that's right. He was playing a Thieves defense with a different offense, and it's pretty much the same dominant lineup. But it's the kind of the Peter's Curse lineup where he's got some evil cards that will work, or some evil dominance that will kind of shift, or I guess help block against the meta. It's kind of a similar thing with the Honeypot, where Peter's Curse is this universal effect, or symmetrical effect, that Jay's kind of built better to play around with Doubt, Murderous Command, and Christian Martyr, all to help block against the meta that is playing a lot of good dominance to get rescues. So I think that this is an important deck to be familiar with, or to be prepared for, that Peter's Curse is going to be out there and people are playing this, so maybe don't put all of your eggs into the good dominant basket. But who knows? Peter's Curse is one card, so if Jay isn't able to get to it and your good dominants are good, then that's gonna work out for you. But I do like this style of deck. It's very similar to a deck that I've been toying with a little bit, and the offense is almost identical, and my defense, I've got a little bit of like demons splashed in there, and it's a deck that I like, and I think this version of it is probably better, if I'm being honest. So maybe I'll kind of switch that more to this style that Jay is playing. Who knows if this is what Jay is actually playing at Nationals, or if he is doing some kind of honeypot thing, or what. But just a deck that you should be aware of and ready to see, or maybe it's something that you want to play at Nationals because it's cool and it's not quite what we're seeing in the meta. So now we're going to be getting more to meta decks, and in the number 3 spot, I guess, that I want to highlight is Babooni Tim's Nativity Herod's deck. This is a deck that we've seen pretty much since March or something that Tim has been using this deck. Seems like almost every day he's been refining it, posting another video of gameplay with this, or very similar versions to this deck, and just doing a lot of testing. I guess I didn't show you the reserve from Jay's deck. I'm just realizing that right now. Let's go do that really fast. Okay, here's Jay's deck. Here's the reserve. Ooh, cool stuff. Fun cards. Foreign Wives in there for the Murderous Command. And a few other, lots of defense stuff, but for Sacrifice can come out with Storehouse, I believe, was in there, and Eternal Judgment. Interesting. But yeah, okay, cool stuff from Jay's reserve. Back to Tim's Nativity deck. Now I gotta zoom back out a little bit. And why did it just unsorted everything? All right, now we're back in business. So this is a deck that you're probably very familiar with if you are a viewer of Babooni Tim's channel, which if you're not, then why you should go watch it. He's got lots of good content, good stuff going on there. And this is one of the decks that is very strong. I don't think that Nativity is as strong as like the GOC good stuff decks that we're seeing, and that's kind of what the number 2 and 1 slots are going to be. But I think that this deck is very good, and especially in the hands of someone like Tim who knows this deck inside and out, I think this is going to definitely be a threat at Nationals. I think, like Jake, he kind of runs a similar deck to this. He's got a, slightly different defense, like with his newspaper version of the deck, but this is, yeah, definitely another style of deck that can pop off, similar to like a Matthew, GOC good stuff kind of thing, but uses Star of Bethlehem. It also uses Resurrection, and gets a lot more value and a little bit more resiliency. So in a matchup against like a honeypot deck, I think Nativity has better odds of punching through the honeypot stuff than the a GOC good stuff deck would. But I just think that the GOC good stuff decks are just a little bit better, to where the odds are just slightly in their favor, I would say, and even in this matchup, which is also one that's definitely going to matter. So we do also see that Tim was trying out Doubt in this list that he was running in Lackey Grand Prix 16, so I guess I should mention that as well. So if you're on Land of Redemption looking at the Lackey Grand Prix 16 top 4 decks, you're going to see this one as the number 1 deck, because Tim won the Lackey Grand Prix number 16 with this deck, or at least similar versions of this deck. This was the one that he was playing in Top Cut, at least, and not sure if he made any changes throughout the tournament or not, but I suppose you probably know from his videos. So yeah, I would definitely just be somewhat familiar with this deck. You can actually go on Land of Redemption, download this list, and load it into Lackey, do some test draws. You can do that with any of these decks if you can find the Lackey list for it, or just create it from the picture. It doesn't take too long. You can just load it in, load it to you, do some test draws just to kind of see, get an idea, I guess, for some of the things that you'll be up against. So, all right, going on to the number 2 deck is going to be Zach Gilbaugh's North Central Regionals winning deck, which is, I think, similar to what he's been running in other tournaments as well. I didn't do the reserve again, man. I'll get better at this. Here's a reserve from Babuni Tim's deck. You probably already know this from watching his videos, so I don't need to show it too much, but First Sacrifice is also in here. It's kind of interesting to see. I believe he's playing both Storehouse and Star of Bethlehem, which, yeah, Storehouse is a good way to get the Coming Prince back, so Bethlehem stable. Coming Prince can get out with Storehouse, so that you can get Star of Bethlehem back. That's where my brain was going way ahead of me there. But anyways, yeah, this is what he's got for reserve right now. This is something that I'm sure changes a lot, but he's got the Sneaky John the Forerunner in there to kind of clean things up. He's got good seed in reserve, perhaps to bring his Matthew count down. I know he's been doing some Matthew math there to do some odds of how many cards Matthew's going to draw, all that jazz. So here's the number 2 deck. This is Gilbaugh's, I guess, Disciples and Herod's deck. So you see the Herod's defense very similar to what Babuni Tim had going. Zach is running Pagan Sailors in here as well. He did say after the tournament that Pagan Sailors and stocks might be coming out. It's you're a little bit more liable to Matthew with the Pagan Sailors in there, but there's some merit to it. I think that it's not necessarily going to matter. It might cost you 1 out of every 10 games, which maybe that's too much. It depends on who you ask and how the math works out, but it's something that Zach was considering, is cutting Pagan Sailors and stocks from this list. But with Delivered and Pagan Sailors, it can be a pretty good block, and I guess sometimes attack, maybe if you got some green on John and Peter. But anyways, that is one of the things that he was saying might change. Otherwise, the defense is pretty much the same as what Babuni Tim was running. Very similar evil enhancement lineup, but just those 3. And then the offense is mostly Disciples, but also Joanna and Mary the Restorator in here. Is a couple of Empty Tomb Ladies, and then he's got all 3 of the Exchange Angels going on in the offense here. So just a deck to be aware of, and it's I think pretty much the same style of deck that you're going to be seeing a lot of in the uh, top tables at nationals, where this is very similar to what Nick Marshall was running last year, and that was kind of the point of last week's video, where all these cards different, and I don't know that the decks have really changed all that much. The one thing though that I will point out that I think has changed, and will have at least some impact on the meta, are decks like this that are running Nazareth. I think that that's what separates this deck from what the number one deck is going to be. Slight spoiler there, but I think that that is something that is going to be important to pay attention to. Some decks are going to be playing Nazareth, some decks are not. Some decks are going to be kind of more built for that, and some decks are just not really going to care. It's like, it's something that you can do to slow down your opponent after you get a good advantage, but to some degree, if your deck is solid, you're winning all of your rescue attempts, then is Nazareth really worth it? If, like, are you even going to need it? So that's something to consider. Zach is also running Falling Away in his list, which we see with the choose the blocker heroes as something that is fairly common. Falling Away to convert a hero and then choose it to block. It's going to be kind of hit or miss, I think, with Herod's Temple going and protecting most people's heroes in territory, but that's can also be used to get a block there, which is part of why it's so good, is because Falling Away kind of introduces that flexibility. So I guess the only other thing to mention with this deck is the 3 nails that Zach is running. Of course, all of these heroes that are in the deck can be played as Meek or convert to Meek, except for the angels, which you're not really planning to keep on the table. And so Zach was kind of running a surprise 3 nails in there that can be brought up by either Delivered or Pagan Sailors to kind of catch your opponent by surprise. That's something that I wouldn't necessarily expect to see at Nationals, but that's sort of the point, is that it's going to be in a few of those decks, and maybe the advantage of it is that they're not going to expect it. But it's really just to, like, if you're going second, give you an option to sort of reset the game, you get established first, and then get your Nazareth down, slow your opponent down, kind of shift the momentum of the game back into your favor. That's kind of what 3 nails was meant to be able to do, and I think that this is probably one of the best decks for utilizing that. Sorry, Jared, I know you and your patriarchs, you want to utilize 3 nails well, but I think this deck is probably where it fits the best. I don't know if Zach would keep it in here if he does take out Pagan Sailors and stocks, or what would happen there, but yeah, that is Zach's list, and it's going to be a good one to practice against or practice playing, just so you kind of understand the lines of play if you want to compete with or against it. And then here's the lineup that Zach has for the reserve. He's got Eternal Inheritance, pretty straightforward. Your main is also another good one in here for Book of the Covenant, which Zach is running, and then also Send the Helper. So pretty standard DOC good stuff, just kind of NT Clay enhancements that he's running in reserve, and then a few defensive blocks or blocking potential things in here that are going to help later in the game. Executioner and Foreign Horses is something that I think most Herod's defenses are going to be running now, and that's a pretty good play. Like that was something that Nick Marshall was running last year. Most Herod's defenses that were worth their salt, I think, were running this, because just having that play first option is pretty good, because pretty much everyone does drawing and searching, so that usually works out. Just note that it does get tossed by the Cross and Coliseum, so that's gonna be good, and Michael. So all right, so on to the number one deck. This is Josh Potratz's NT Clay Herod's list that he posted, which is not sorted. So let me do that quick. Okay. He posted this on these Zerubbabel's Temple Discord in the NT Clay channel on July 21st. And so if you are looking for a very solid deck to either play yourself at Nationals, because you're not really sure what to play yet and you want to do well, this is a deck that I think, like, if anyone just grabbed it off the shelf, played a few games with it to kind of get the feel for it, then you could go into the national tournament feeling fairly comfortable with just how it plays, your lines of play. It's fairly straightforward. You're just going to be trying to get to Matthew, trying to draw a bunch of cards through Matthew, through Blood of the Lamb, through Generous Giving, and you're just going to try to get the most difficult to stop rescues as possible and execute those. You're going to be using Angel of the Lord, Glory of the Lord, Ride On Victoriously, or I guess Awesome Things to play first, or just win the battle through other means. The Resurrection, of course, banning in Matthias, and the Ascension, also banning in Matthias is a way to do it. You can ban in Lazarus and John to negate their evil cards or toss their next evil enhancement, and then use Matthias to bounce their evil characters. There are just lots of ways for this offense to make strong rescue attempts, and of course, Authority of Christ being kind of one of the best. And this is a slightly different take than you're maybe used to seeing with these kind of lists, which is why I wanted to highlight it. Kind of similar to, but in contrast with Zach's list, because while a lot of the core components are the same, you see a lot of the same disciples, some of the same empty tomb and kind of white splashes in there. Here you also see Akeem. Zach was not running that, so Akeem is a good counter to have, a gospel hero that's protected by Herod's temple, but can negate their neutrals. And he's not running Nazareth in this list, so that's kind of what I was alluding to with, like, it doesn't really even bother with Nazareth, because you're just hoping that you're going to get to the point where it doesn't really matter if your opponent is able to do some searching and stuff, because your rescues are just so solid that you'll be able to work through it. That said, this deck is a little bit liable to Nazareth, and might struggle if your opponent gets it set up turn one and you don't have a response right away. Of course, there's no Shipwreck in here, but kind of with all decks, I mean, you kind of have to play around it the best you can. Hope you can draw into a 3 woes, and he also has some answers here with, like, Herodias' daughter is a way to deal with it. Herod Agrippa can kind of turn it off briefly while you use, well, I guess he doesn't really have any searching in deck here. I guess he's not running Crowd's Choice, so no Crowd's Choice to 3 woes or something while you're negating it in battle. But there are just some ways that he has to try to work around it, and I think he can almost plan, like, if you're not expecting to see too much Nazareth, then you don't necessarily have to include too many counters, so you kind of see sort of what some of the players are expecting to see by what they build in their decks. And of course, this isn't necessarily what Josh is going to be playing at Nationals, but this is a very solid deck that has been shared recently by the community, or into the community, from the mind of Josh, who is certainly one of the best deck builders in the game. So I definitely, whenever he posts a deck, I'd like to pay attention to it, kind of see what his thought processes are. And he did a good little breakdown of some of the decisions that he made in the Zerubbabel's Temple Discord and that NT Clay channel. I did want to get kind of an honorable mention, shout out to a similar list from Joe Andrighetti, who has been mostly running kind of the Disciples Nazareth build, but actually at the Minnesota State Tournament, which he won, he played a list that was relatively similar to this, except with a more like gray, like Philistine gray defense. So it was a little more kind of like Jake's newspaper defense, where it's just kind of the best of gray, but also with herdsmen. And Joe was running that to great success, of course, at the Minnesota State Tournament. I didn't bring it up here to show it, since a lot of the offensive things are kind of similar. There's a few differences with the reserve, and but the like what was in reserve, what was in main deck, that kind of stuff. But overall, still a very strong offense. And if you want to check out Joe's deck as well, that's on Discord. If you go to the deck list channel, it's sitting in the Minnesota State second place Type 1 2-player thread, because John earlier posted his second place deck in the Discord there in the deck list channel, and then in a thread that was created, Joe put his first place deck, I guess just to show John up a little bit, or I don't know. That was just where he happened to put it, because they were talking about Minnesota State there. So that's where you can find Joe's deck, which will be fairly similar to this. And I don't know, we'll see if Joe ends up back on Nazareth when he gets to nationals, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'll leave it that way. But I think he was like, it's he might have come to the realization, I guess, of sort of that, I don't think this deck really needs Nazareth to kind of offset the the balance of the game, or to kind of slow my opponent down, just because I want to be ahead of them no matter what, is almost the idea. And it's fair, this deck is fairly consistent at doing that. So that is the breakdown for what I think are some of the top 5, well, I don't know, some of the best decks, 5 of the best decks, I guess, that have been released into the community, of shared by people, which is great. I think it's good to be sharing kind of the strategies and what we're kind of making it an open meta, and kind of breaking it down to who plays the best, and not just like who discovered the best combo or whatever. But I like combos, and those things are all cool too, and I don't blame anyone who does want to surprise people with a combo at a big tournament, something like that. But very cool to see some of these decks and some of these minds of people in both their testing and also in their kind of presentation of the deck. So yeah, this seems to be a fairly refined list, despite Josh not really playing a whole lot recently, but at least in or at least like in Grand Prix and in-person tournaments and stuff. But I do expect him to be doing well at nationals, and as usual. So I would be on the lookout for decks similar to this, and even some techs like running Arc the Covenant to stop decks like Jay's, or counteract decks like Jay's, where he's running Douch and Christian Martyr and Murderous Command, the add to battle dominance that people are running to kind of combat these hyper aggressive aggro decks. So that is the breakdown of those top 5 decks. And that's where we're going to end this video. Getting a little bit long. It's getting a little bit late for me. I need to go to bed. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this whole breakdown of some things to expect for nationals. I'm really excited. I hope to see you guys there. I'm excited to see how Type 1 shakes out, even though I'm not a huge fan of decks like this that are defining the meta and just kind of making it a little bit difficult to be like, I want to try to combat this, but it just seems like you kind of gotta join them, because you're probably not going to beat him. I don't know. That's a little bit my opinion. Maybe it's a little pessimistic, but I like to play what I want to play anyways, so I'm probably going to be playing something a little bit different and trying to combat this if I can. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe whoever, if someone drafts me in the first ever Nationals fantasy draft, Redemption fantasy draft, they will urge me to play something more similar to this, so that I will do win more games in Type 1. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you next time. Hopefully we'll see you in a week at Nationals, or you'll see me in a week doing some live streaming at the very least. So that will be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Catch you all next time.